Yesterday, I received a comment about being too political as an author, and the commenter stated that she was advised that being too political wasn't good for your brand. And she loved my content and everything, but she was concerned about being political or speaking what's on her heart, what she really feels. And it got me thinking about when did speaking up become a bad thing? When did silence become preferred? Because let's be real, silence is loud. It speaks volumes. It enables injustice, and in today's world, staying quiet is a privilege we simply can't afford. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. This is a famous quote by Edmund Burke, and it's true. Think about in history when people have been silent, when people have not spoken up, when people have allowed injustices to happen. What happens? If nobody is opposing the injustice, if nobody is opposing the lies, then evil wins. And there's an expectation in certain circles that writers, artists, and creators should stay neutral, that we should avoid ruffling feathers, but history tells us otherwise. Staying silent in the face of corruption and oppression has never been the answer. I recently had a pretty, I don't want to say devastating, but it was pretty heart-wrenching experience that perfectly illustrates this point. Right before the election, I sent a private message to two people, just two, and it was in a local writers group, and it was a humorous video about Trump. Nothing cruel, nothing outrageous. The video was to raise awareness for an animal shelter. So I thought, I'm killing two birds with one stone. We're making a joke and to two people that I knew were politically aligned with me, and raising money for homeless pets. But one of those people happened to be the president of the group. And like I said, I knew she was aligned with me. And the response was I was upsetting people and had sent the message to several people, when in reality I had only sent it to two. I was told this wasn't a political group and that I was causing issues. And in that moment, I was sad, I was devastated, like I said, because I had tried so hard to find a group, and we had done, a retreat with them and everything, and I thought I made friends in the group, but apparently not. Apparently the friends I thought I made, weren't, I don't know, they weren't reciprocating my feelings of friendship. And so in that moment, it was crystal clear to me, I refused to be silent. I was very guarded on my TikTok and my videos before then. I mean, I did make a few, starting last summer, I did make a few, but I was more guarded, more calling out lies and things like that. And I thought, why am I being so guarded? Why am I being so protective? My brand is Sprouted Vegan. I am for all things earth, animal, people. I care about things. So it's on brand for me as a vegan author to stand up for those who are oppressed, those who cannot stand up for themselves. And Audre Lorde had a famous quote saying, "Your silence cannot protect you." That's very moving for me. Even if you stay silent, even if you give in to the oppression, you're still going to become a part of it. You're still going to be affected by things that are changing. And so in that group, I apologized to both of the people that I sent the message to, and I left the group. Not because I felt guilty, but because I realized I had no interest in being part of something where I wasn't welcome, simply for expressing a thought, simply for private messaging a video that was funny. I believed that I wasn't welcome, and I'm not going to stay where I'm not welcome. And at my age, I don't need to be lectured about what I can or cannot say. I know what's at stake, and I won't pretend politics doesn't impact every single part of our lives. The election was too important, and right now, too much of it's riding on our activism. So I didn't feel like staying silent. And I'm not alone. Some of the biggest names in the world are using their voices for good, proving that staying silent is not an option. Let's look at Taylor Swift. She took a stand urging her fans to register to vote, and it worked. 35,000 people registered in one day after her post. That's powerful. Stephen King refuses to stay quiet. He's constantly calling out people in power, and let's be honest, his tweet calling Elon Musk the first lady, chef's kiss. Mark Ruffalo speaks out on climate change and social justice. LeBron James started a whole voter rights initiative to fight against voter suppression. Angelina Jolie doesn't just act, she advocates for refugees and women's rights globally. And let's not forget the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. Back in 2003, they were blacklisted from country music for speaking the truth about George W. Bush and the Iraq War. They were told to shut up and sing, and radio stations stopped playing their music. Their careers nearly ended because they dared to criticize a president. And at the time, I was a huge George W. Bush supporter. My mom and I we fought over this autographed picture that I got because I was such a big Republican. Like, I was a straight party voting Republican. George W., I believe, was governor of the state of Texas. When I lived in the state of Texas, I lived on the Gulf of Mexico in a sailboat, and I will get to that story later when I do a video on how to write what you know. But I really admired George W. Bush, and so when they came out against him, I wasn't, I admired them so much as a group. At the time, I did listen to some country music. I don't anymore, unless it's like the 80s stuff or the 60s, 70s, 80s. I like that kind of country music. But I like, Tina Tucker, the Chicks. I like, George Strait. I like, I don't know. There's so many. I like, so anyway, but I don't listen to today's country music. So, especially not Carrie Underwood. And I have a whole story around that too. My dad dated her mom, and my mom used to joke that she was my sister. She's a lot younger than me, and it's funny because she's like vegan or vegetarian, and I'm vegan. But yeah, my dad dated her mom, and before, obviously before her mom got married, but when they were teenagers or whatever. And I used to listen to her stuff and think, oh, it's my, she could have been my sister. But yeah, I don't listen to her anymore for political reasons. But at the time, I did not like, I still listen to the Dixie Chicks because I still liked them. And I, believed a lot of the stuff they said, even though I still admired George W. Bush. So, but they didn't stay silent. They came together stronger, and with Not Ready to Make Nice, that song became an anthem for speaking out, for refusing to be bullied into submission. They took power into their own hands. And here's the thing. Controversy draws attention. It always has. It always will. People think activism will hurt their platform, but in many cases, it actually boosts it. Why? Because controversy sparks emotion. It makes people pick sides. It makes them talk. And in a world where engagement is currency, the more people talk about you, the bigger your platform becomes. And let's look at Trump. He's constantly controversial. That's how he got into the White House in the first place. That's how he got into the White House in the second place. When the media started playing him constantly on the TV, I was like, oh gosh, here we go again. I don't care what he says. Quit talking about him. Quit showing him, And then I haven't watched the news since. November 5th, since the election, I haven't turned on any news channels. So I get my news from, I watch actual clips of the person. Like, I don't like secondhand information. And people say, oh, you're getting your news from blah, 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 blah. No. I'm going to watch a clip and I'm going to hear, yeah, he said that. These were his words. And I have critical thinking skills, so I can think for myself. And I do look at, newspaper headlines, like reputable newspapers, not bloggers on the internet, not right-wing media. So, but this is how he became so popular, because he is controversial, because he is someone that people are drawn to because they love the drama. And so let's look at some of the biggest moments in activism. Colin Kaepernick, when he kneeled during the national anthem, the NFL blacklisted him, but that act of protest made him a global icon. Did a Nike deal and became a symbol for activism, and he wrote a book that sold out instantly. And I don't watch sports. I don't know anything about football, so I don't know what kind of football player he was before he kneeled. He kneeled very respectfully. He chose a way to protest that was very respectful, very quiet but loud. It was just awesome the way he chose to do that. He didn't storm a Capitol. He didn't break laws. He kneeled in respect. And I believe from something that I saw down the line somewhere, that actually came from a veteran, their suggestion of a way to respectfully salute the flag, but also protest. And so this was his form of protest, and he became controversial because of it. And I had never heard his name before. And so this gave him a name. Greta Thunberg, a teenage climate activist who skipped school to protest climate inaction. That rebellious move led to her becoming one of the most recognized activists in the world. She spoke at the UN, she meets world leaders, and she influences climate policies. Brittany Packnick Cunningham, she's a Black Lives Matter activist who went from grassroots protests to becoming an influential speaker, author, and MSNBC contributor. Michael Moore, his political documentaries are controversial, but they sell at theaters and win Oscars because people want to hear the truth. Controversy fuels engagement. If people are talking about you, whether they love you or they hate you, they're paying attention. And that attention gives you a platform to create real change. And I learned this the hard way when I dove with my whole heart into a true crime case years ago. It was a case where a grieving mother was being persecuted, not because of evidence, but because of lies and manipulation. I was a ghostwriter for several years, and I also edited for a publisher in New York. I edited books, I ghostwrote, and I worked with a judge on a local case where a grieving mom was being just shredded in the media, and she was being persecuted as the person that murdered her 2-year-old daughter, even though she wasn't home. The stepfather was home. And the DA said the stepfather did it, that he essayed the daughter, and he even said that on the stand at her trial. But because all these people were drawn to the controversy, they sided with him. And so when I was working with the judge, I was like, oh, this case is interesting. Oh, this poor mom. And I knew how to make websites at the time. It was like 2007 when those skills and platforms and stuff weren't readily available. I knew as a ghostwriter, like I promoted myself as a ghostwriter. I had written over 100 books for people worldwide. I knew how to get myself out there. And so I dove in and tried to alleviate some of the misinformation, and I was attacked. I became their next target, and they terrorized me for years. And so I saw a system that was more interested in winning than injustice. I saw people believe whatever they were told, no matter how illogical it was, and I refused to stay quiet about it. And I went through a lot, and I wrote 2 really big books about the case. I mean, it's like 600 and 700 page books. There's Murdered at Age 2, the mother charged with should have known, and A Witch Hunt in Oklahoma, the Radon Smith story. I wrote these books because I was having tunnel vision panic attacks. I was afraid to go outside, and a psychologist told me that I'm a writer, so I should write about it. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And it did help. It did help. The death threats didn't stop until 2016. So I received those for like 9 years, but it did help alleviate some of my stress. But this made me controversial. Speaking the truth, questioning authority, and exposing deception makes people uncomfortable. They don't want you to change the narrative. They don't want you to upset the apple cart. They don't want you to upset the system. They want you to go along with what they're saying or stay silent. And I didn't care about staying silent. I cared about the truth. And actually my name was Truth Seeker because that's what I cared about, the truth. And I still do. So the bottom line, speak up even when it's hard. So if you've ever been told to keep politics out of your art, stay in your lane, remember this: your voice is your lane. The moment you choose silence, you're choosing the side of those who want you to disappear. I refuse to be part of a world where speaking out is seen as more offensive than injustices we're calling out. So use your voice. No, I won't shut up. I won't stop, and neither should you. I'm going to keep speaking my truth. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best: in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So remember that. So keep being you, keep dreaming, keep writing, and keep being your authentic self, even if it's controversial.